People that have been doing this a long time, I mean, doing it by listening to music through artificial intelligence. Okay, wait, that's the wrong word.
What?
Speakers, headphones, not live. A lot of people talk about system synergy. And it's, I guess it could be a confusing topic if you've never dealt with system synergy before, which is basically synergizing your system to go along with your music and your headphones, and the whole system as a whole has to be synergistic, so to speak, right? So let's talk about that.
Well, it does seem like one of those things that like you don't get it until you get it. You hear it and it's like, damn, this works.
It hits you a certain way.
Like you think it's fine until you actually. It could
a good system will be emotional, right? It invokes an emotional response from a lot of times certain tracks, your favorite tracks, could be anything. Could be a love song.
This tends to be the most challenging thing to do because it's very easy to find something that you like in a vacuum. Well, maybe not actually in a vacuum, but if you're not comparing it to anything else and you're just looking at a specific thing, usually you can find like, oh, that looks cool. It does this thing that I like, or it's this right price point. Somebody says it, is great in some way or whatever, but it still needs to end up working and producing enjoyable music to you hope. So getting the whole system to all work together and have the end result being something that you want, that's the trouble. Without having every permutation and combination of possible systems and having people debate over and over on the internet, it's very hard to know what the exact combination is that gets the job done.
So let's pretend you're starting from scratch and you've never done this before. And the rule of thumb is buy the best headphone you can, or in 2-channel, it's buy the best speakers you can afford. Mm-hmm. Then build a system around that. And, some people spend years doing this. Others can do it in a few months or immediately, depending on your budget and who's coaching you, so to speak.
Generally speaking, yeah, although we are a headphone manufacturer, so maybe a little biased there, but you'll find a lot of people that make the same claims. I think it's reasonable to say that the best speaker or the best headphone you could afford is a good start, because that's sort of where the rubber meets the road. It's the outcome. So you want that to be able to do the things. You need it to be able to make the sounds and sound right and be technically proficient. So if you buy a good one of those, you could work on the stuff downstream from the headphone later on.
And I think if you're starting from scratch, though, you're probably going to wind up going through more than one headphone.
Almost a guarantee.
I don't think you can expect to start and go, bam, I'm done. It's not really going to work out.
I mean,
you could
maybe.
Maybe
if you just like tested a lot of headphones, you didn't buy any, just tried a lot of them.
You need a place to do that for sure.
Right.
That's the best thing to do. If you have a local dealer or even a 4-hour drive to a dealer that has a good assortment of things to play with, at least you can narrow down. I think that's important at the beginning is you have to narrow down what it is you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because if you've never done this before where you have a really nice system, really nice playback system for music, you've got to, in order for anybody to help you, you really got to narrow down what you like and what you don't like. And it's like anything, right? It's like picking a car. If you've never bought a car before, let's say you're buying your first car. Is your first car you bought the one your most favorite? Is it ever going to be like, you're usually always compromising, right? It's always a compromise.
Maybe.
Because you can only afford something that's 10 years old. And so like, that you want the race car, but you can't, you might maybe afford that when you're 50, but you're not going to be able to do it when you're 18, right? Years old. So
well, you are see people spending a lot more on their first cars than ever. People are more commonly buying $10,000, $20,000 cars, whereas back in my day it was a few $1,000s.
Well, leases are kind of the shit, right? We're not really
it's a bit of a
buying
shift.
it. You're just
not the best example.
You're borrowing it, but agree. But bottom line is that it's the same with audio. It's like you're probably you're not going to probably make the greatest decision at the beginning, but at least try something. And if you're not sure, it's always a good idea to start the lower end of things first.
Well, it's not only that. Like things that are like have good synergy for some people don't for others because they listen to different music. They're looking for different things. So some people like they don't want tube amps because they're listening to like EDM and they want the most forceful sound they can get, and other people don't. So.
Yeah, they're looking at like a narrow range of the frequency spectrum and going, I'm really into the bass. I like to hear it a certain way.
Right.
And nothing else really matters as much.
Right.
And it's synthesized music too. So it's like, you don't have, not that you can't make synthesized music sound good, but it does sound different than live, real instruments. You know, it's going to be different the way it's
That's
recorded.
among one of the biggest challenges. You'll find a lot of people talking about this, and they'll say, I found the system for me. And you might think, well, this experience translates potentially into what I would want to hear or what I want to buy in the future. And it may, but it may not, because it tends to be quite challenging to reliably and precisely articulate what you like in your system and what you want to hear. So for most people, they're not even that aware of the things that they care about the most, because it's very hard to compare where your priorities are in a music listening system to someone else. So a lot of times people are saying, I like this because of the bass, but it may not only be because of the bass, maybe because of other factors, and they're not articulating that well.
Music is complex.
Very complex.
So to make a recommendation, say, okay, we're going to tell people, all right, you know, you want to get started with this, you don't know where to start. Your best bet is to really find somebody who's experienced in it, you know, and they should ask the right questions at the beginning, you know, like what do you listen to? You know, do you listen loudly, quietly? Do you like loud music? What do you own speakers? Do you have a system now? What do you listen to music now?
Right.
If the car radio is as far as you've gone, then it gives them a better approach as to where they can start with you. You know, and so, but yeah, your best bet really is to find experienced people. I mean, call us. You can call us by all means, but your dealers, you know, if you find someone you can talk to there that seems to connect with you, right?
Yep.
You know, and then not just like, oh, just go get that. You know, Best Buy is not going to be probably your best friend in that point.
The biggest challenge in
this, specialty shop.
Even if you find someone, it's always going to be the expectation that they're going to want to sell you something, and they're going to want to sell you something that they sell, that they have. So whether or not that's true, that's always going to be the feeling, the expectation, and that's a bit of an issue. So it is challenging to find the right person that's both experienced in this and understands the nuances in it. But there certainly are people on forums like that. There are people in the hobby.
Well, headfi.org is a great forum.
There's manufacturers.
You could read
like
forever
this.
there.
Well, yeah.
You know, you could go back 2-3 years and
10.
look at. Yeah, right.
Right.
And not that you're really looking at current.
Well,
right? You
yeah.
want more current. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, you're right. You could go back and learn the history on a brand if you wanted to. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. I mean, hell, our 1266 thread goes back from when it came out.
Yeah.
Like
There's definitely some
2013.
merit in that. If you go back that far, if you want to invest the time,
There's a
can
hell of
see
a lot
the-
of BS in between, but
you could
progress.
see the evolution of people's thoughts and experiences. You almost kind of could get a sense for what they went through in some cases.
True.
And it's an experience that it's very hard to get yourself without buying hardware.
you got to be able
trying
to
it,
read
spending-
between the lines.
That too.
Because
Yeah.
it is a forum.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
You got a lot of craziness on there sometimes, you know.
But it helps. It certainly
yeah.
helps if you want to invest the time.
But yeah, particularly on forums, after a few years, usually there's some consensuses drawn, some
Yeah.
rules of thumb. If you're looking for this, get this. And you could start there, you know.
Well, the beauty of that is you could skip ahead. Like
Yeah.
you could do a snapshot of a year and then move on to the next few years, and
Yeah.
so you could just skip through it, which is kind of nice. It's kind of like a YouTube video,
It's sort of like a YouTube video. And
you know.
it is
With
nice.
stills.
Starting with the headphone is a good approach in a lot of senses, because usually the people in that community that are into that headphone, they usually already have gear that they think works well. So usually you could get a pretty good, solid enough amplifier
Yeah,
recommendation.
if you look at the current posts that are on these threads,
the more modern
yeah,
ones.
yeah,
usually,
you'll see what people are using with the
Yeah.
headphone. And it narrows it down
It helps a lot.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And start there. I mean, bam. So, you know, you probably can get a system for under $1,000, let's say, where you actually have like some sort of separate amp DAC.
Well,
you know,
it's
and a
not only that.
headphone.
It might not be exactly perfect for you what these people are using, but at least you know it works at least for them, right?
Yeah.
At least it's
Well,
someone's cup of tea.
and you
right?
learn how to communicate. Like, you know, now you understand what they're talking about. Because if you've never done it, you don't even know what the hell they're talking
Yeah,
about. It just you really don't. It's hard. The subjective side of it is difficult to describe in English without experiencing it. Like, you know,
It's
if
very
you,
challenging.
If you never felt sandpaper before, how would you describe it?
Rough.
It's coarse, it gets everywhere.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But then you got to get into specifics. Well, what if you push too hard with your fingers on it? Does it take your skin? Like, there's all kinds of
There's nuance for sure, yeah.
all kinds of nuances.
Well, there's all
about
different
it.
grits of sandpaper.
Yeah, right. What grit sandpaper are we talking about? Is it 1,000 grit?
If you've never tried to explain a more complicated thing to someone that has no idea what you're talking about, yeah, it's sort of like explaining to your grandma how to use a phone or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It gets very complicated. You think, oh, well, it's not that. You click this, and then it's just...
She just wants to see the numbers 1 through 0.
Right.
You know?
And it
Yeah.
becomes readily apparent that there's like layers of things that are unknown. And this is very much the case with headphones as well. Until you start getting into it, it's very hard to really know what you like and want. And it's very hard to understand the words. So if you have no idea, but you know you want to get on this path, maybe starting used is the way to go. If you buy used hardware, more likely you're able to sell it for similar to what you paid.
So bottom line is, try something to get into it, you know, and
Start
and,
somewhere.
And if you can afford the good stuff, then start there. It's okay to start there, because
If you really like it.
you skip all the steps that are involved with getting there anyway,
Yeah.
you know, and but you should suggest talking to somebody who's done it, so you don't, make the mistakes. 'Cause, the better you get, the better speaker you get, the better headphone you get, typically the better electronics you're going to need to support it
Yep.
in order to really enjoy the music, because it's a more encompassing, in order to get out of it what you're paying for. I guess the best way to describe it is like, I've seen people like they'll buy really expensive speakers and they won't spend shit on the amplifiers. You know what I mean? They'll get, these Class D amps are $500. They're great. They're great. But their speakers were $5,000. So, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just using stupid numbers, just making them up, all right? Which nowadays, $5,000 for speakers isn't a ton of money, really.
Wow.
But, okay, let's say, so now you have 500, but so they've never tried $5,000 amplifier before, though, like a similar price point to the speakers, or $10,000 for that matter, all right? And if you don't go there, and it goes for all the electronics, the DAC, whatever you're using for a source, if you don't go there, you might never extract the capabilities of that, what you paid for the speakers. In other words, you could have bought a $500 pair of speakers and been just as happy. That you spent extra on the speaker.
Or vice. I mean, maybe the $500 amp was fine in your situation.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Well, that's the complicated thing,
Right.
because price doesn't always correlate to performance. But generally, there is a bit of a correlation. So it's kind of like hard to say, just you need to spend this amount on something, where the prices need to be matched. But as a broad rule, unfortunately, it's kind of the case.
I mean, you mentioned Best Buy, and our local Best Buy, they just remodeled it, and now they carry like a 800 series B&Ws and Macintosh.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the thing. You always
True.
see Macintosh and B&W together.
I don't know if they have people there who are experienced who can actually
I don't
sell
know,
it,
but you
explain
always
to you
see
what
that.
the benefits are of that.
Yeah.
But it is beautiful stuff
Yeah.
combined. It's beautiful stuff.
That's like a rule of thumb. I mean, you might not like either of them. But
I think you're better off going.
They're
To
usually shown
you're
together.
better off going to a specialty dealer that's been
Right.
that's been dealing with those brands for.
But it is
many
odd to
years.
see in a Best Buy.
But yeah.
Because they have the big, like 500 watt model.
Well, and I guess you could say for them, Best Buy in general, and for the general public that shops there, it is a new experience, because now they can experience something that most people don't have specialty shops.
Yeah.
So to have a nearby.
Yeah.
So to have a Best Buy be able to show you or demonstrate, and I don't think they all are. I think there's just a few select stores in each area. That the way I see it.
Yeah.
Not that they have so many stores left around anyway. They've narrowed down that. But it's a cool place to be going. And if it's playing, just listen to it. I mean, to listen to a $50,000 audio system, most people never experienced that in their lifetime. And so that in itself is a learning experience where you start to realize what it can sound like, assuming it's set up properly, in the Best Buy.
Well,
So
probably not,
Yeah,
maybe.
right. So, I mean, there's a lot to know here, and that's why I say usually you want to go to a specialty retailer who deals with that. And they're your best bet, because especially some that have been around for decades, I mean, they just got it down. They got the mix down. They combine the right electronics with the right speakers already set up for you.
I mean, that's what we do. We're lucky enough to have a local dealer and try all the
Agreed.
stuff out
Yeah.
every once in a while.
Yeah, we could go to Speaker Shop here in Buffalo, and they got all the toys. They got the Macintosh stuff. They got the B&W, the Bowers and Wilkins. They've got a lot of goodies in that store. Receivers, and anyway, turntables. That's where you got your last turntable. That's where I got my turntable.
If you have a local group of people or a store that's passionate about this stuff and they're really into getting new experiences and new people, then it's a great bet. Go there and see what you could hear. See how the stuff sounds. Maybe dangerously try to listen to stuff that's a little out of your price range. And see
why not?
With an open mind, see does this provide me with any value? Is it worth it? Should I spend less?
Well,
Should I spend more?
That brings up a good point. People have budgets, but sometimes they set their budgets on just what they think they're going to need to spend. They could afford better.
Well, sometimes you
But
see
they don't
both
know.
sides.
They don't know
Sometimes
what
you
they can
see
get.
it's way too high, and other times it's way too low. Sometimes you see people that just don't really care, and they would get a good experience with a few $100 thing for what they're looking for. Now, if you just want it to look a certain way, that's different. If you're looking for furniture or whatever.
Well, yeah.
But there's
the
plenty
big
of
bucks.
people that they buy it and they're disappointed. So is that good value if you spend $500 on something and you don't like it?
Because it was $500.
Right.
Yeah. I would. The bottom line is keep an open mind when you go looking at this stuff. Just don't limit yourself. It's kind of like anything. It's like furniture. You think about anything you put in your home that you're going to live with for decades, probably. I don't think too many people change their furniture in their home often. Same with speakers. You could have speakers 20, 30 years.
Right.
The system, so don't mess around. If you're going to do it, just you do it one time and you set it up.
Well, you know what helps? If there's no price tags on everything and you're at a dealer, just have them not tell you the price of what you're listening to. And then be like, pick one and then decide, is it worth it?
Yeah.
For me, that works. I think that's a good step, just to be totally ignorant of the price.
Yeah.
And then kind of sort of help to formulate, does it matter? How much do you care? How much should you spend?
Tell, though.
Yeah.
But,
if you're only looking at price, that's a bit of a limitation, because it could be there's something that's maybe double the price, but it's way better. So you need to hear it to understand for you, is it worth it, or should I spend less? Should I spend more?
The reproduction of audio, in a lifelike manner requires, to set up a system properly, requires an open mind and usually some time and patience. Mm-hmm. And, if you negate any of those three, you're going to gimp the system somewhere. It's just not going to come out the way you
You'll probably
planned.
end up disappointed.
Yeah. So, expect to take the time, have a bit of patience, try to get to understand the entire system, which is what the synergy was we were talking about, how the amplifier and the speakers combine, or the headphones combine to create a certain sound, and adjust it to your liking and work on it.
But that's the thing. Even doing this for 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years, you still can't, there's no shortcut, right?
No.
Any new
You have to
product come
try
out,
it.
you got to try it out, give it time. So
There's no spec. There's no synergy spec.
no.
They're working on it kind of with a number, but it ain't going to work.
It's got to be possible, but it's so incredibly nuanced.
Yeah, because
it's very,
we're
very challenging.
individuals.
The closest you can get is all the components from the same brand, and you hope they did their best to make it all work together.
Yeah, that helps. But anyway, that's why you talk to someone who experienced. We've been preaching enough about this.
Yeah.
So if you got any questions, call us, email us, PM us. Any communication method available on the planet, we'll probably hear you and respond.
Probably
Maybe.
not Morse code.
Yeah. Oh, here we go again. Yeah, don't send that.
Don't do that.
Yeah. We're not on shortwave here.
No.
On that note, everybody, take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching.